Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and germs, to the ultimate episode where we talk about every one of the best albums of 2021. That's right, we are counting them down and finding out what is the definitive best album. You've seen the other lists. Those are like precursors to this one. This is the thing that it's all been leading up to. This is sort of like the Oscars to the Golden Globes. No one gives a shit about the Golden Globes. It's all about the Oscars. We don't care, Golden Globes. You're an also-ran. Who cares?
Taylor, would you say those other lists are like John the Baptist and ours is like Jesus?
Yeah, I would say so. Those are they're just the herald.
They're just the voice crying out in the wilderness.
Yeah. And we are going to behead them, and it's going to be like metal as fuck. And people forget that about like the whole John the Baptist thing where it's got served on a silver platter.
He went out hard.
There was a guitar solo playing throughout the entire Bible.
Yeah. Joining us as always, our biblical scholar Greg is here.
Hey, I keep forgetting to wait until I'm introduced to say stuff. I just love talking, Taylor.
That's okay, because I continue to talk, and if you don't interrupt me, I will forget to introduce anyone. Speaking of which, Ryan is here.
Greg talked, so then I thought I should talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Also with us is Books, being very patient.
I am naturally just so giving. I like to give everyone else a space to speak, but then when I do talk, I expect absolute silence. So you've been warned.
And you will receive it, because we don't want to end up like a certain Baptist that we know. Also with us is Cassie.
What's up? I'm glad I got to talk instead of Ryan coming in when it was my turn to talk. So there it is. Thank you. This feels like home.
Yeah, listen, you'll have to get used to that. We apologize for him. He's much like a certain Baptist we know. Also with us is Caitlin.
Hey, yeah, I was really quiet this whole time, and I feel like I shouldn't have been, so I feel like I'm just going to be extremely loud this whole rest of
My advice, interrupt McKenna every time she talks.
I can do that.
We'll see how that turns out.
I will turn out. I don't think it'll be good.
I think it'd be fine, as long as you're not baptizing too much. This bit probably won't last through the intro, but like if it does pass into the rest of the show, I think it would probably be fine, right?
I don't know why your agent came in and said if Taylor's going to host the show, he's going to do this John the Baptist bit. Like, why does your agent love it so much?
It's like my big, like, you know, when I do my stand-up routine, it's like my big closer is I do 30 minutes on John the Baptist, and it fucking brings the house down. I mostly do it at evangelical
John the Baptist,
churches,
or is it just saying John the Baptist?
Oh, it's mostly just saying John the Baptist, or you know who. We sort of there's like a 10-minute chunk where I pretend that John the Baptist is kind of like Voldemort, which I think is much like a lot of the albums this year treated life. That was a good segue, right?
Yo, hell yeah,
guys! If we had to pick, like, if we could distill this year in music down to like sort of a sentence. Like, what would it be? Greg, give me your sort of one-sentence distillation of this year in music.
I would say most albums explored a three-dimensional sound. A lot of these albums that made it to this podcast are like songs that create soundscapes and that are like shifting and changing. And that the ones that were the most successful were the ones that really built those up consciously, and those are the ones that I hope are going to move on.
Yeah, Cassie, what do you feel about what Greg's just said? Do you want to come at him?
Yeah. I accept what he did put out there. I would just build on it. I would say everybody got a little experimental, minus Taylor Swift, who just re-put out the same thing. So that's what I would say. That's my sentence. Everybody kind of dipped their toes in a new area, except for Taylor Swift. She was like, here's my shit again.
Remember this album, Taylor Swift said? Here it is again.
Here you go. Yeah. One more again.
I can feel.
With like 30 more minutes of song.
Okay. We'll talk about that more later.
We'll save it, but I would say everyone experimental -1.
If I did sum it up into one sentence, I would take a little cue from an album that we're going to be talking about later and be like, hey, what?
Yeah, that's a full sentence. Yeah. Caitlin, Books, what are your opinions?
I think on top of the music aspect, there was a really complex understanding of the self and grasping that emotionally, understanding who you are and reflecting that without shame in your lyrics.
Hell yeah.
Deep.
This
snaps.
these albums, there is some certified bangers on here, and that's all I'm gonna say.
I'm so glad you followed immediately. You weren't worried at all. You were like, "That's a real good point you made,"
Yeah.
and let me come in hot right now.
There's
me
some
say-
certified bangers.
There's some certified bangers on this for sure. All that thoughtful shit, absolutely. Personal growth, love that.
Everybody-
That also bangs. To me, these are bangers.
But can you disagree? No.
I feel like there wasn't a lot of compromise in that department this year. It wasn't like, we had
bang?
some stuff that shredded and some stuff that was intellectual. I thought we had a lot of intellectual stuff that shredded.
Yeah, I think there should be more intellectual stuff that shreds, honestly, because it's like the best of both worlds. Well, we've heard about the bangers. Let's see if there's any mash. We'll find out when we get into our first matchup right after this.
Well, that is very, very funny. Or very sad, and perhaps now you have something to think about. Or very problematic, and perhaps we have something to think about. But in any event, I'm sure you have some reaction to what you're listening to. So why not check us out on the social media? You can go to Instagram or Twitter and find us at YourPopFilter. Email contacts@YourPopFilter. Hey, everybody, keep watching them movies.
Welcome to the first matchup of our Album of the Year bracket. This one is your first seed, Little Sims, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, versus your 9th seed, and my personal pick to be on the bracket, Sleigh Bells, Texas. Greg, which of these two albums do you think made the biggest impact? The thoughtful and stylish introversion of Little Sims, or the in-your-face buzzsaw of Sleigh Bells?
Well, I think it depends on what level of impact you mean, because Little Sims album basically took the whole industry by storm and took already a pretty big artist and made her maybe like a household name. But the Sleigh Bells album rocked my face right at the end of 2021, because that's when you hipped me to it, and I've been listening to that so much. So personally for me, I love Sleigh Bells, but it's hard to deny like Little Sims at this moment. This feels like her year, her album, her coming out party. And when I was talking about like those albums that create like soundscapes, it's not that Sleigh Bells doesn't do that, but Little Sims is like really, really good at making every song be like a full mood experience. And
yes,
hard to deny that, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard for Sleigh Bells to move past this. I put this on here because this is sort of my Justice for Sleigh Bells campaign, where I truly think if they put out like their 2011 shit like right now, TikTok would eat it up and they'd be the biggest thing ever. But they didn't, and instead they're like a 15-year-old band still releasing that sound, and it's great. But Little Sims fucking crushed it. Like I found her with her last album, Gray Area, and the only reason that wasn't my pick that year was because we had 2 other British rappers and nothing else sounded like 100 Gex on the list. So I went with 100 Gex, but I loved that album, and this one feels like that, but just like even more cohesive and better.
We have like a running kind of like list, and things are like kind of come on the list and they fall off the list. And then Gray Matter was on very late last year and then fell off, barely didn't make it.
Yeah, Little Sims is like undeniable. This is such a good album, and it goes through different styles throughout.
We got to go back to what McKenna talked about in the intro about just basically like writing poetry to explore yourself, and this is going to come up over and over again today. We only have 8 albums that we're talking about today, and it's going to come up over and over again. But this one is that, with also like an orchestra. Like this is a whole
like cinematic.
Like a cinematic movement. Yeah.
Oh,
It's so good.
Each song sounded like a different type of movie, but they like all flowed in together, or like a certain scene in a movie. And I just felt like I was transported into just like my own little story. Like I was driving, but that's my story.
Honestly,
and
this is the musical lover in me. But if you want me to be into your album, if you want me to be engaged, start it off with a big symphony, like warming up and then rocking my ass off. I'm like, I'll listen to this rapper, I guess, this British rapper, which sounds like an oxymoron, but I'll do it anyway. And that's how you start an album.
And she's so earnest. I think that there are times in this album where her earnestness like sticks out a little bit, but does not take away from it because it's like a very real, raw kind of emotionality on her part.
The rawness of it it takes you by surprise occasionally, but you hurt with her. And then there's like elements of dark humor too that layer on top of that raw emotional experience. And it is overall, it just comes together with the orchestra behind it where you're like, I don't know whether to laugh or cry, but I feel this in every bit.
I also think that, like, speaking of like the cinematicness and like sort of that vibe, I think that is a great way to make, if your album is a little long, it's a great way to make it not feel long. Like, this is a little over an hour, I believe, which is like,
dude, my
40 minutes is...
My cutoff is 30 minutes, and then like I want you to be over. And the fact that this was over, and I was like 65 minutes. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
a big part of it is there's movements. There's like like the songs are kind of grouped into different almost acts of the album as well.
There's even like an interlude, and like we've got all sorts of, and then the rapper that came to tea interlude that just comes in. It's brilliant.
It feels like it is like it has a whole story, so it feels like it's carrying you forward and not that you're having to push through it, which is very, because I agree, like past 40 minutes, every minute past 40 in an album, you need to justify you're doing that, and I feel like this one does.
You basically need to be Taylor Swift or it doesn't work. We also have, it's also like narrated by like Princess Diana, right?
Is that true?
The actress
I don't know what Princess Diana sounds like.
The actress from The Crown who plays her just pops in and like gives us these little like vocal interludes throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, she sounds like she's supposed to be like an angel or like some sort of goddess that's like, or like mentor figure giving Sims like, kind of like gassing Sims up in between things. And Sims like, okay, no, I understand, but it's really hard. And she's like, you can do it, Sims. Come on, keep going.
Greg, when you heard about this rapper, did you think it was music from the video game The Sims?
They're all going to be in like Sims talk.
Little Sims.
Now speaking Simlish, I did really enjoy... at the end of this album, I looked up some of the lyrics, and Lil Sim's like description of the final track on the album, where she was like, I think this is the perfect closer for the album. I could have stopped it a track before, but it's sort of like you do 99 reps, and you're like, well, I did 99. I might as well just push one more out. And I was like, fuck, yeah, that's such a good attitude to have for this album of all things. It's like,
I'm a little embarrassed at how long it took me to realize that sometimes I might be an introvert is like her nickname. And her nickname
or her name Simbi.
Took me so long, and I finally put it together. And also just a clever little note to hide in your relevant title of your album.
Just to throw back really quickly, I found out very recently that the name of Sophie's album, when we talked about it, Oil of Every Pearl's Insides, is supposed to sound like I love every person's insides.
It's like I Love Dogs. Remember that movie?
That's a very Sophie thing to do.
Yeah. That just made me think of that, and I figured I would throw that out. Now, going over to talk about a little bit more about Sleigh Bells, I really enjoyed this album.
Is there there's maybe I'm too old, so all this shit sounds the same to me, but I feel like this isn't that different to me than 100 Gex was. And Sophie is a good thing to bring up, Taylor, because there's like Sophie was too much for me, right? My tiny brain could not handle it. But then there's a step between, like, say, Blink-182 and Sophie, which is these bands that you always suggest that I love, where it's not full-on experimental, and yet you never know what sound is going to come out of them. Is that fair to, like, group these two together?
Oh, I think absolutely. I think 100 Gex is in conversation with, like, old school Sleigh Bells, and like I think
they grew up listening to Sleigh Bells.
Yeah, I think Sleigh Bells was like doing a thing in like 2010, 2011 that like then became a lot of the hyperpop sound.
If you interview 100 Gex and say what did you listen to when you were a kid, you have to say more than Sleigh Bells. Like all we did was listen to Sleigh Bells all day
and play Mario Paint. But Sleigh Bells to me seems a little bit more reserved, a little bit more serious. It definitely seems like
a marathon.
Poppy. Yeah, I think that they craft tighter pop tunes than maybe 100 Gex does.
And I think
it meets you halfway a little bit.
It totally resonated with me because of the poppiness, I think. It was like, I can listen to this album over and over and over and over again, and it's amazing.
I lose my bearings sometimes when I don't have a clear, and I know this isn't like very artsy, but when I don't have a clear verse, pre-chorus, chorus, you know, like sometimes I'm not sure what's going on, and Sleigh Bells definitely helps you out with that.
You needed to introduce them to us opposite way. We needed Sleigh Bells, 100 Gex, then Sophie.
Yes.
We needed to
the baby steps in reverse.
That's I fucked up in that way where I didn't quite like lead you guys
we didn't
in.
hold our little hands to this.
Yeah, that's you know what, and that's on me. That's something that I'll live with to my grave.
Do-over.
Yeah. But well, speaking of do-overs, there are none when it comes to voting. Greg, give me your vote. Which one of these is going to be moving on?
I have to be true to myself here, and I'm going to say I'm voting for Sleigh Bells because it was the album that I was more into myself.
Hell yeah. I can only respect that.
Yeah.
Books. Where are we
I
going?
do love Sleigh Bells. I think it's worth listening to, worth talking about. But immediately when I listened to Little Sims all the way through, I knew it was going to be one of the top contenders for this whole bracket.
Yeah.
So that one gets my vote.
Fantastic. Ryan, where are you going?
We finally got one. There's a rapper for us. There's a rapper that's an introvert. I'm not voting against her. It's Lil Sims.
Fantastic. Cassie, where are we landing?
Thank you for the gift that is Sleigh Bells and Texas. Thank you for that. But I do got to go with Little Sims.
Of course. And Caitlin, where are you landing on this one?
I don't think anyone mentioned that in Little Sims, there's someone that sounds like Hermione Granger. And I don't know if it's just because I can't understand British voices and I watched Harry Potter too many times and now everyone sounds like Harry Potter characters. But there's that. But also I love Sleigh Bells. So I'm with Greg. I'm going with Sleigh Bells.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Fantastic.
Sleigh Bells ring.
Well, unfortunately, that does not help out, and Lil Sims will be moving on, which I'm fine with. Lil Sims was going to be my pick if it wasn't already on here. So,
if it weren't already the number one seed.
Yeah. So thank you all for saying very nice things about Sleigh Bells. With that, Lil Sims will move on to the next round, and we will take a quick break and get you your next matchup in the bracket. Your next matchup on the 2021 album bracket is 5th seeds Lowe's Hey What versus your 13th seed, Taylor Swift, Red, Taylor's version. Ryan, do you think it would be an absolute disgrace to choose a glorified anniversary remaster to move on from this matchup? Or does Taylor Swift have a chance to beat one of the best and most sonically interesting albums from a band with a near 30-year career of excellence behind them?
Yeah. Now we're talking.
Okay. Thank you for that very not leading question. But
yeah.
Taylor,
you can go any way you want with that one.
Taylor, some could make the argument that it's a disgrace that Taylor Swift's album even made it this far. So
I would argue that.
Let's argue this.
Yeah, it's arguable.
Taylor, you were not on the preview show where we took
this
bracket
not.
from 16 to 8, and boy, did us Swifties come out in full force.
I heard that. Yeah. Listen, I will admit, like, I didn't listen to a lot of music that came out this year as it was happening. I spent most of the year listening to Coheed and Cambria and going through the back catalog of a little band. Are you guys familiar with Low? So yeah, I just listened to only that. So I might be a little biased, but this Taylor
Swift
Swift
angry
album,
right now. Like your face is red
I'm a
right
little
now.
biased.
this Taylor Swift album is only by the barest of technicalities, not just like, hey, we put out a deluxe version with like some live demo tracks. Like, we didn't put like fucking new Adventures in Hi-Fi on here when REM released a remaster. So like,
they didn't put out a
10
side
years
B
old
like
and
Harley.
It's 10 years old and it sounds 20 years old.
It's 10 years old and it sounds like garbage and it shouldn't be here.
Oh shit!
It's asinine she put out this album. It's asinine it's on this
It
bracket.
is not asinine because now she owns this. I do have to clarify, she's not doing this because she's, just obsessed with herself. This is one she'll actually own.
It's 2.5 hours. She is obsessed
Dude.
with her. She didn't need to put 2.5 hours out there.
It's 2.5 hours
wanted that
and it
2.5
ends with a
hours.
10-minute
Fuck
song.
no, they didn't.
This is like when somebody brings up Taylor Swift on Fox News. This is what it sounds like.
I'm scared.
As someone who wanted that extra 2.5 hours, I can attest that I was absolutely delighted listening through this entire
listen,
album.
Red is a fine album, and it was great in 2012 when it came out. I don't need to vote it for the best 2021 albums.
I'll never forget Greg's review as he was going through all of the albums to listen to for the bracket, and he texted me, and he was like, wait, I got through all this, and at the end there's a 10-minute song? Are you shitting me right now?
There cannot be a bigger middle finger than her putting that right at the end to you guys. She straight up was
Some
like,
of us
fuck
listened to it, didn't realize it was a full 10 minutes. That's just how amazing it was.
Okay. I listened to it and I did not know that was the 10-minute song. I
No,
thought I
okay.
had not gotten to it
At
yet.
Yeah,
4 minutes and 45 seconds, it hits a crescendo, and it is all downhill from there. I will give you 7 minutes at the most, and that is being generous. That extra 3 minutes you didn't need, and you don't need a slow fade out on that motherfucker. Take it out. Just cut it. There's
you
a
put
slow
in 10
fade
minutes,
out.
you give me a slow fade out? You're going to be lazy as
off.
shit and give me a slow fade out after 10 goddamn minutes?
And
Fuck
also,
off.
throughout the entire fade out, she's like, fade out. Yeah, we know, Taylor. We know what's happening.
Just to let you know that the fade out is occurring.
But
Now,
I
on
think
the other,
that...
on the other side of the matchup is Low and their album Hey What, extremely experimental and not 2.5 hours long.
But I do want to clarify on that one, because maybe it's from being on all these shows and these brackets, but extremely experimental does turn people off. And I liked Double Negative when it was on the bracket. That was probably the first time I had actually listened to Low, was 2019.
Yeah, it was the first time I also listened to them. And
Yeah,
it
like
became
year
one of
27 of their career.
Yeah, it became one of my favorite bands, and I was like, huh.
And I thought that was extremely experimental. Having listened to that, and then this was like the baby steps from Sophie to 100 Gex to, like, if you listen to Double Negative and then this is so much more accessible, but also just better. Like, I think that Double Negative was experimental in the genre sense and in the literal sense. Like, they were trying to be like that. I don't know if the experiment fully worked that time, as good as it was, and then this is when it worked.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you go through their back catalog, like certain members of this panel did, you can really hear like their album before Double Negative 1s and 6s was like a pretty standard album, but had like a little bit of that sound, and you could hear them go from that to let's turn the dial to 11 and figure out how far we can push this. And this does feel kind of like Little Sims. It feels like the previous album was great, but this is like we took what we learned and we sort of perfected it and made it like really tight and cohesive. And this is my personal pick for best album of the year.
I haven't listened to their backlog, but it does kind of scare me that Ryan says that this is more accessible, because I found myself having a very hard time connecting to this and listening to this album all the way through. And I just feel like maybe I was a dum-dum trying to get through it, but which is fine if that's the case. And I'm just more Taylor Swift's level. But I feel like Little Sims, a lot of the other albums on here, I immediately knew it was intellectual, knew it was doing new things, but I still had that emotional connection. This I just felt distanced from, and it didn't engage me on that level.
It's challenging. I mean, that's like the and I don't mean it in the sense of intellectual necessarily. It's challenging in that it's not always pleasant. You know, it's not aiming to always be pleasant.
Yeah,
No, that's
I think I can't blame anyone for being like, this album wasn't for me. I think that's what it's aiming for.
But
yeah,
go ahead, Cassie.
I mean, that's what, like, you gotta do with it. It totally is. It's this very fine line between what is music and what is noise. And it's either if you are able to kind of, like, passively accept it and find, like, music in the combination of what they're doing, or if you just focus in on the loud beeping tone that is there, then that will drive people insane. So it's very understandable. If it drives you insane, like, that's fair.
I really like everything that's going around the music, aside from the repetitive beeping and
you don't like repetitive
static
beeping.
noises and like the in and out noises. It like really bugged me. So I feel like I would like Low if it was less annoying.
I will say this,
Caitlin, I will say go listen to their back catalog, because that's that, but like with the stuff you don't like taken out.
This is important too. I think that the point of the album is I'm going to start every sentence with that. Yeah. This is important too.
This is an important point I'm about to make.
Everybody listen.
What I meant to say is what Greg said in the intro is important too with this album, because I think that the point of the album is you have to get through all the bullshit in your life. Like, that's the point of life. And they included bullshit for you. And that doesn't make it more enjoyable, but you do have to get through it. But going back to what Greg said about the soundscape is and we can talk about this for every album. There are some albums where you just don't have a choice. You have to listen to it from the speakers on your phone. And that sucks, but you want to listen to music. This is an album where you find the best speakers in your house, and you sit on your couch, and you let it wrap all the way around you.
Yes, you have to live in this. It sounds like they took an ocean of sound and then like made it so that it envelops you, and then started ripping apart pieces of it around you.
That doesn't sound fun to you?
You know?
I see that. That is where I think the rift will be.
I like movies that do that to me. I like books that do that to me, but I don't like audio alone that does that to me. I just think I have too much of a haywire brain that as soon as I can't actually let myself go and fully dive into that, it just nags at a certain part inside of me and I never fully envelop in it. But I can appreciate that it's doing it.
Yeah, exactly. The appreciation is there, even if you don't like. There's a real audiophile nerd, I know stats about music kind of aspect to this that I can definitely see. It's just going to keep me at arm's length because I would rather listen to All Too Well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, if you have anxiety, which I do, like there's times where you just cannot listen to this album because it sends too much at you, and if you're an anxious person, you start getting, for lack of a better word, triggered. Like you start really like it's just a lot, and I found myself several times trying to listen to this album and then having to go away from it because it's just like, okay, I'm like, this caused me to panic.
That's what I did.
I think it's so interesting that you say that because I feel like, and maybe this is just because of the type of person that I am and the things that I like, I feel like this is, both this and Double Negative have historically been like, if I am very anxious and need to like center myself, I put this on because it gives me something to just sort of like bombard me and sort of envelop me, and then it feels like I'm being swaddled by something else, and that is where the anxiety lives, and I can just like push it off.
It gives your anxiety a rhythm. It's like it's fucking comforting.
Wow.
I don't want my anxiety to have a rhythm. I want it to go away.
Word.
I'm with Greg. Every time I turn this on, it makes me anxious, and I think that's why I hate it, because I have to like turn it down, and then I can still hear it like the sounds of it, and it really bugs me, and I keep trying to turn it down lower and lower.
I did make the mistake.
Is that why they call it low?
Yeah, no, that's right. Just keep low, more low.
Don't listen to the first this album for the first time while at work. Was a massive mistake. It was terrible. I should have done better.
I don't smoke weed anymore, but if I still did the way that I smoke weed and listen to this, I would fucking call the police on myself.
I had the exact same work interaction with the previous album, Double Negative. Like the first time I put it on, I was at work on my headphones and I started playing it. It was like, this is not the environment. I can't do this. This needs something else.
I noticed I started just anxiously tapping my enter key on an email because I didn't know what to type the next paragraph of the email I was sending, and I was just sitting there and I was like, it's the music, not this email you're trying to send. The music is doing this to you.
But see, there's this conversation that you have to have that is weird and awkward where this album in a lot of ways sucks to listen to, but their intention was to turn anxiety into music, to create that feeling of anxiety, and they were so successful at it that you have to argue that like they were great at their job. So what does that mean as far as
great at their job, but is that great for music overall? Do I need anxiety in music?
I guess that's what we're here to vote for. So let's find out. Books. Which of these albums are you going to vote for?
I think everyone knows. I do think Low is doing great things. I'm just not the person for that, so I cannot vote for it. Red is getting my vote.
Okay, I'm very worried about this. Ryan, which one are we voting for?
As I was one of the 3 people who fought to get Red on the bracket in the previous show.
Uh-huh.
But I will go back to the thing we talked about with Little Sam's is, this is 65 minutes? I can't believe it. When I was done with Taylor Swift, I was like, this wasn't 6 hours? I can't believe it. Just cut a song. Just experience what it's like to cut a song. It's low and it's not close.
Great. Making me feel a little bit better. Cassie, which way are we going?
100% Low.
Great. Very good. Caitlin, which way?
Tried to put myself in a good atmosphere because I knew how Low was, and even going through the fabric store, it made me very anxious. And so I have to go with Red.
Plus, keep in mind that when Caitlin goes to the fabric store, it's with a ghetto blaster on her shoulder. So that place was rocking.
I have never been more excited to know that I have at least one vote that counts for 2 on this show. Greg, which way are we going? Low or Taylor Swift's Red?
It's funny that Low is such an older band than Taylor Swift, because Low's album feels like what's next in music, and Taylor Swift's album feels like what it is, which is something that happened 10 years ago. I'm definitely Low.
Thank God. That does give us a 3-2 margin, which is so much closer than it has any right to be. And Low will be moving on in the bracket. We're going to take another quick break, and after that, we will do our next matchup, which will give me much fewer heart palpitations.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening so far. And let me just tell you that everything ahead of this commercial is much better than what came before it. That's my guarantee. While I have you here, let me tell you about a website. It's called yourpopfilter.com, and it's everything you need that's related to Pop Filter. Everything Mike, everything Ryan, everything Greg, everything Cassie, everything is there at yourpopfilter.com. While you're there, go to yourpopfilter.com/Amazon. Make that your new Amazon bookmark and do your shopping from there. That way, we get a little piece of the action, and Amazon doesn't. Make sure you're also listening to everything that Pop Filter has to offer, which includes the Superhero Show, a podcast that covers every single TV show that's based on a comic book or comic book property, and Movie of the Year, where we sit down and try and figure out what is the single greatest movie of any given year. That's Superhero Show, that's Movie of the Year, and that's yourpopfilter.com. Rate, subscribe, review, bye!
Your next matchup in the 2020 album bracket is your second seed, Tyler the Creator's Call Me If You Get Lost, versus number 7 seed, Arlo Parks' Collapsed in Sunbeams. Cassie, what style of exploring growth and change worked better for you? Tyler's bombastic alter ego festival, or Arlo Parks' more relaxed and poppy vibe?
Both were, they're both amazing. For me specifically is going to be Tyler the Creator's, just because it fits in more with me. But Arlo Parks is like this beautiful, just a beautiful album, like beautiful musicality all around. But there's something about Tyler the Creator that every year I'm just like, fuck, this kid is good. This kid,
he's so good.
He's just good, and it's undeniable. Like, even when, like, you know he's doing stuff, like, it is Call Me If You Get Lost, as Greg said before in the preview one. Like, yeah, I got lost, and I did not care. I have never enjoyed being more lost. Like, he is so talented, and these songs just go so hard. And the fact that has this natural talent that he's worked so hard at is insane, and it's showing every year that he's able to put out an amazing album. Like, he's kind of undeniable at this point. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. This might be the only time on the bracket where we have two albums that are that, like, cut yourself open. And
yes,
we watch you bleed against each other.
Sew yourself shut.
Yeah.
Where is Papa Roach on this bracket, by the way? Yeah. Wait, do you have to release an album in 2021 to be on this bracket, or what?
Apparently fucking not.
But listening to Arlo Parks, these two albums are so amazing together, because listening to Arlo Parks, I was just nervous, like, just as far as, like, what we look for in a new album and, like, to win. Is there enough, like, surprising dynamics and drama? And Tyler the Creator almost has stuff to make you angry, and it's weird, and sometimes it just sucks. This is my favorite album of the year, and sometimes it just sucks and you have to deal with it. And whereas Arlo Parks is too much like an album you would buy at Starbucks to, like, get us super hyped up on it. Is that wrong?
Wow. I understand that comment. I think I think it's a little bit more interesting than that, but I am
Taylor, you would buy this album at Starbucks. That was a devastating blow. Yeah.
But I do think that it's
lyrically it's amazing. It's the musicality that sort of,
I think it's very obviously, and there's like another album maybe on this list that I will also level this criticism at. It feels very much like a debut album, and I am it's so good. I'm very excited for her second album.
Mm. Yeah, I could see that. Like, when Ryan made that comment, it felt hurtful, but I didn't have anything against it. Like, it's a good album, but, like, also it is kind of some Starbucks music.
I think that being Starbucks music is not an inherent disadvantage.
No. It's a style of sound.
It's a vibe.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
when
you're being held up against something like Call Me If You Get Lost, where you're listening to it and you're like, I think this might be really complex and deep, and I think it might take me a long time to really, like, understand all the layers of this, because I think that's what it is. I think that the album is like you're kind of moving through layers of Tyler the Creator, getting to like the center of how he feels about this one incident in his life, this one relationship that he cultivated with somebody, and whether it was correct or not for him to do it. And to get there, you have to go through a lot of bluster and a lot of like crass materialism and a lot of like him, whooping it up and bragging on himself.
And doing this thing of like, I am parodying what other hip hop artists will do, but also I'm leaning into it as well.
But I am doing it too.
But
like,
he's also like parodying himself from 10 years ago. I think that is the big differentiator between these two albums. Because as Ryan mentioned, like they both are like Open Myself Up, Show Like My Adolescence and Growth albums, but musically we're hearing Arlo Parks' This Is My First Shot, and with Tyler the Creator it's I've been doing this for 10 years, I produce all of my own albums, I have just been only working on this craft and growing in the public eye, and here's what I've learned, and it shows.
This album for me, it doesn't have the same like cinematic quality that Little Sims does, because it's very jarring. And there were times where I was listening to one song and I didn't know if it was 5 songs mixed into one.
Yes.
Like I was just so lost at times. I had to keep checking and seeing where I was in the album and what was happening. But it still has emotional movements, but it jars you in and out of them the same way, and like in a very different quality than cinematically. And I'm still not sure how to fully process that.
But that's why I think he didn't have a song on the mixtape. Is because there isn't like a standout track. It's just you have to throw yourself in there and ride.
Which is also very interesting, because he also like a part of the like bringing DJ drama onto this thing is like make it like a throwback to an era, like a mixtape era of hip hop, where it's like my whole album is sort of a mixtape, but therefore it doesn't have a single standout track. It's just we're throwing these out there.
Pull anything out,
And in the meantime, Arlo Parks is just singing about, like, it's almost like you are the greatest journal writer of all time, and she opened up her diary and read through it. Like there's nostalgia going on in both these albums.
No one says Gangsta Grizzles even once in the Arlo Parks album.
Nobody has their toes out.
Arlo Parks reminded me a lot of Phoebe Bridgers, because like the whole, like what you were saying, like the journalist, like I'm reading my journal right now. And that's kind of how I felt with Arlo Parks. But I actually like Arlo Parks better than I think Phoebe Bridgers. And
that's a strong statement.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't agree with it, but I really was surprised with how much I liked Arlo Parks' album and how it like just lulled me, and her lyrics and everything. I really enjoyed her album. Starbucks are not.
I enjoyed it a lot. Oh, Ryan, do you want to defend your Starbucks statement?
It's not as, I don't think it's as derogatory. I didn't mean it as derogatory as it's coming off.
No. I don't think it is a derogatory statement. It just I think it categorizes it as an album that is very is very fun to listen to.
That I could listen to, and my mom could listen to.
That you could listen to over and over and over again. The kind of album, if you had like in your car, you'd listen to the CD front to back over and over and over again and not really get sick of it. It's very pleasant, but it's not like you don't get the most innovative music you've ever heard while you're buying your mocha.
You can also easily sit and read a book and sip on a coffee while listening to this. While it's Tyler the Creators, you need to live in the album and fully get that experience. I mean, you could try to read while it was playing, but I don't think it would go very well. So
no, because it refuses to settle. That's the thing. Like he never just gives the album over to like, now you're going to hear this one sound for a while. The second you get comfortable in any sound, he radically changes it. I mean, there's one song where he starts off and he gets like 3 lines into it, and then he just stops and starts another song. Right?
It really threw me. I was so confused. I thought somehow Spotify skipped like an old CD with a scratch on it.
This is not where we think music is going. But where we think music is going is write 3 songs, don't release an album. Just release the 3 songs. Just have good songs. Nobody listens to albums anymore. And he was like, "Fuck that! I'm gonna make this thing." And I don't know if they're songs or not. Like you I don't know. You're never gonna know. They're just sometimes the track switches from 12 to 13.
He's the anti-Haley Steinfeld.
It's definitely more audio than it is but not noise. I don't want to classify it as noise because it's definitely cohesive and it has quality to it. But it's audio driven.
Cohesive in Cambria.
Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. I think Tyler Creator is doing an experimental and sonic journey, but in a way that is very different from something like Low, but it is still like the same level of, I think, experimentation, just in a different direction.
And then also throughout the entire album commenting on how much he's changing music while he's doing it.
Yeah.
There's clips of him playing his stuff just for people in his life and having them be like, wow, this is amazing. Nothing sounds like this. Like the first time you hear a song, you're already hearing somebody praise it.
Yeah. Which fucking rules. I love that. I really was besmitten with this album when I listened to it. It just, like, not only is it very interesting, it's Tyler, the Creator, doing something, like, kind of grown up, but also it's got DJ Drama on it. The instant I hear DJ Drama, my brain does, like, a Vietnam flashback, and it's 2008, and I'm listening to Lil Wayne for the first time. And, like, the instant I heard the little lighter flick on this, I was like, oh, shit, here we go. And, like, it just, like, it hits all of the little parts of me in, like, very interesting, weird ways. And I'm like, yeah, this is fun. I like this.
And it's kind of like a novel. I mean, in a way, it's all about him and everything that's happened in his career so far. In another way, it's just about this one relationship he has with a woman who's like going out with one of his friends. It's also about the trip dealing with that in Geneva. And every single song keeps intersecting back with all of these same plot points. And it makes it so satisfying because the more you listen to it, the more you see how it is interconnected, like within the album itself.
And, because he also, like, his new, like, Tyler Baudelaire, like, alter ego is, like, based on, like, a French poet.
Yeah.
It's like,
I had to study that guy in school, and that guy is about as easy to crack into as Tyler, the Creator is. Like, that's some rough stuff.
It's also just, like, insane to me to, like, go back in my mind and think, like, me 10 years ago, what I would say if I was like, yeah, Tyler, the Creator made, like, one of the most thoughtful and interesting, like, very, very adult albums.
It's time now. It's time, like, we talked about this in the previous show, but it's time for him to be anointed at, like, a Kendrick Lamar. After 3 albums in 6 years of this level, he's, like, at the throne.
It's funny because he has a part in one of the songs where he's like, no one thought we'd be here. It's like, that's not true about you anymore, man. Like, you're kind of one of the most respected musical artists around.
He also brings up on one of the songs where he's like, and that's why my album Cherry Bomb didn't sound very good.
Yeah. I was going through some stuff.
One of these things that, like, makes me grateful this album came out now, because I think, like, 10 years ago, McKenna would not have the, like, emotional growth to process something like this. So I'm glad I've kind of grown a little bit with Tyler, the Creator, because I don't think I could have handled this album.
Also, like, we talked about anxiety, and we talk about how Low gives you anxiety now, but for a lot of these people, Little Sims and Arlo Parks, and especially Tyler, the Creator, think about listening to this album 10 years from now. For them listening to this album, like, they're so raw and open, like, that has to be devastating to think about what you gave to the world 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm. It's like reading your old Facebook profiles, like, posts. Awful. All right, well, it is time that we have to do a vote. Ryan, which way are we voting on this one?
Yeah, man, Igor was, I think, close to winning that year, and I think now it is time. So, Arlo Parks, I will echo Taylor's statement. Can't wait to see what you have in 2 years from now.
Yeah. Cassie, where are you going?
Tyler, the Creator is just owning his craft and killing it. So it's Tyler, the Creator for me.
Hell yeah. Caitlin.
He put a comma in his name and then called himself the Creator. Like,
AKA Bunny Hop.
I don't understand Tyler, the Creator, and I try really hard, and that's okay. You guys like him, and that's okay. I'm going for Arlo Parks. I really liked it.
Okay, preventing a sweep. I love to see it. Books. Which way are you voting?
One of the only times I'm okay with being lost is while listening to this album. So it's Tyler, the Creator.
Love it. And Greg, your vote doesn't really count, but
there are no bad albums at this point on the list. But Tyler, the Creator is just, it's different. I mean, somebody says it on the album.
It's really different.
It's really different. It just really is. So it's album of the year material for sure.
When you said at this point, no bad albums at this point, were you specifically talking about the fact that Red is gone?
I don't know. I don't know if I want to go so far as say that that's a bad album.
I will. Fuck it. I'll bogart
it
that.
It shouldn't be 30 songs long. Your album should never be that long. Like, Anyway,
Yeah.
but no, I mean, I'm glad I listened to Red. But like Arlo Parks is to me, this Arlo Parks album is twice as good, twice as relevant, twice as interesting. I mean, it's way better than that Taylor Swift album for sure.
And that is why it will not be moving on, and instead Tyler the Creator will be moving on to the next round. With that, we'll take another quick break, and then we'll have our final matchup of round one. Your next and final matchup for round one of the bracket is your number 3 seed, Olivia Rodrigo's Sour, versus your number 6 seed, Japanese Breakfast's Jubilee. Caitlin, very simple one for you. How do you like your emotional pop music? Sweet or sour?
Ooh. Okay. Japanese Breakfast, I'd never heard of them before, so this was like a really fun intro to them. I was like, oh yeah, I could jam to this. Kind of slower than I expected, but then Olivia Rodrigo got super sour and brutal, and I mean, I have not been able to stop listening to this, and it's been on repeat.
For people who are just listening and not here in the studio, Caitlin's face is covered in stickers, including her tongue. So,
It's a lot of commitment.
I was showing,
and I'm here for it.
Caitlin famously has been like a champion of High School Musical, the musical, the series from like day one.
Yeah.
So this sort of feels
HTM,
like
TTM, TMM, TS?
yes,
yeah. This does feel like sort of vindication for Caitlin specifically. Like this is her low. Like
Talent comes out of the thing she's been raving about.
yes, and no one watched it, and it's very good. It's a very good show, and then the music is really good. I think I was screaming about Olivia Rodrigo before she put out her album because I was like, this is so good. And she still is good. And I love her beats.
It's one of those things where it's Caitlin will talk about a person and it will just go over or under your head. Like, I don't remember that at all. And then I'll be like, Caitlin, did you hear this new album, Sour, by this new person called Olivia Rodrigo? And she's like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, are you serious?
I don't get wins often, okay? I usually point people to shit and garbage, but Olivia Rodrigo is good.
I have never felt more akin to Caitlin than in this very moment.
I feel like I never know who is in or coming out of the Disney kid actor ecosphere. Like that's what she is, right? So like she could be so popular to so many people, but she's like not anywhere on my radar at all until something like this, because that's like a big crossover hit.
This is an important one too. If I can pull back the curtain a little bit and reveal that the 6 of us are in what's called a music league, where we enter songs and it creates a playlist, and Caitlin's dedication to not being in last place is so strong.
Yeah.
And she's already in a hole for this season.
I'm so deep in this hole.
So deep.
I think we need to give her this Olivia Rodrigo thing just because of that.
Can I have
because
one
of that.
fucking win? For fuck's sake. I'm not joking. This music
I
is
didn't know it was possible this early in that musically round to be in the negative.
I
But
thought
Caitlin-
I literally thought she was
So
being
far.
ironic.
I did too. I thought that she was playing to.
I thought it was a
get last
prank.
place.
I am trying so hard. I'm losing so badly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I get one win, Olivia Rodrigo, gotta give it to me.
Here's
on to Olivia Rodrigo though, like you do have some interesting taste. This is universally good though. I think everyone can jump on it with you. She's so young, so talented, wrote this album with like incredible insight into her young life. Like she has no problem highlighting all those ugly emotions in her songs. And
You know what's going to be sad? She's going to like in a year or two, she's going to write an album that coming from a better place. And everyone's going to be like, boo, get bitter again,
happy
girl.
and emotionally stable.
Dust yourself off and knock yourself back down.
Here's what I'll say about this album. I listened to this album and my takeaway is Olivia Rodrigo, extremely talented vocalist, very promising songwriter, needs to fire her producer, get a different producer. The issue I had with this album is that the production is not great, and it sort of is in the background and a little muted. All of the ballads sound kind of the same, and this album needed to be sequenced differently.
I totally agree. I see what you're saying, but I do think that this album is coming from a place where, because you know how the faster things change, but also the slower things change. She's coming from a place where if you're this age and this, level of attractiveness, we're going to sell you in this way, even though that's how we did it in 2002, we're still going to pump out the album like that. But that being said, I still think Olivia Rodrigo needs to be put on that list of Little Sims and Arlo Parks and Tyler the Creator of cutting herself open and showing us what's in there in this incredibly poppy album. And I'm looking at her as an artist more as like an album that sounds like bubblegum.
Yes, it's the artistry here is absolutely there. It's if I have to level a criticism, it's that like if this were produced by like a Jack Antonoff, I think this would be like number one with a bullet. I think if there's one thing kneecapping it from being the runaway, it's that it's the other people around her.
I think it was very quick. Like she wrote this album very fast, very fresh on one topic, and that makes it cohesive in a way. Like if she had given herself some time, we probably would have had songs on different topics that would not have necessarily related to this heartbreak, brutal album. But that quickness also lends to maybe things could have changed and emotionally evolved a bit more. But she got it out very, very
that
quickly.
thing that you said though, McKenna, takes me back to a time where my heart got broken. Well, I was mostly breaking hearts, but
yeah, come on, Ryan, fess up.
And that is all that mattered in the world.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
you couldn't think about a single other thing except for that heartbreak, and that's what this album brings you back to.
I think it's very naive to criticize this album as like, well, it's all about. She's 17. That's all that mattered at the time.
Yeah.
Like that is the biggest.
That
thing
which
in
is
the
stickers.
world.
Yeah, it's impressive how well she like captured that emotion of being 17 and this being the most important thing in the world. But I also think that makes it a very interesting matchup between this and Japanese Breakfast, because Japanese Breakfast's like last 2 or 3 albums have pretty much all been like dealing with like the death of her mother and like being sad and upset, and this is her album where she's like, I'm going to be happy, and this is like my happy album. So it's like they're almost polar opposites, where it's like the Japanese Breakfast album is almost like, what if Olivia Rodrigo like was dealing with emotions like 10 years from now,
Like it's an episode from Marvel's What If.
like it's an episode of Marvel's What If.
I love this whole thing about how she released a book and then released the antithesis in an album. And I didn't have to read that sad-ass book. I just got to listen to the fun-ass album.
Yeah.
Is the album only joyful though? I feel like that's what she said about it, but then like I feel like it's still a pretty like emotionally complex album.
Yeah. I think saying it's only joyful is like is sort of distilling it too much. But I think it is like
we'll go to Zadie Smith's definition of joy. I don't know if you've read that essay, but that like true joy is that acceptance of sadness while still finding your own happiness. That's what this album felt like to me.
Yes, that you took the words out of my mouth and made them way better than anything I would have possibly been able to say.
I too was going to quote an essay.
Same.
For sure.
I
You guys see my essay right here.
I wrote one in 5th grade.
But yeah, that is what this album does feel like to me, is like I have dealt with the struggle stuff, and here's like the joy I found through that and in spite of that, rather than like, I think if this were a 17-year-old making this album, would be like, friends are fun, right? And like that's what it would be, but it feels a deeper and more complex. Like it's hard to just say that it's about joy, because it is such a complex range of emotions, and I think that's what makes it so fucking good. I love this Japanese Breakfast album.
But
like Posing in Bondage doesn't seem like a song about happiness. It seems like a song about like isolation, you know?
And it's important to bring up, especially because it's one person, right?
It's 2 people. That's what I don't know. Like, but isn't
it
it? I don't know.
Japanese and Breakfast. I like the thing that's important to bring up, especially because they are up against Olivia Rodrigo, is that not only is it still upbeat and poppy, but just referencing constantly to the decades of my youth. Like, there's so many songs that feel straight out of the 90s or 80s, and that's when the best music was made. I think everyone can agree.
Also, 10 songs, 37 minutes. That's tight.
Delightful.
Leave them wanting more. Like this, when this album is over, you're like, no. That's the perfect place to be in when an album is over.
Yeah, one thing that I think this maybe is it's not necessarily a criticism, but it's a thing that bumps me is with the Olivia Rodrigo album. I had the same response to it as I did with Harry Styles' first solo album, which was, I see that you do a very good job of like sort of wearing your influences on your sleeve and doing like, here's like a Paramore song, here's like my version of like a Lorde song or a Taylor Swift song. But it does make me, every time I listen to those, go, well, now I kind of just wish I was listening to that other thing. And I'm excited for you to make these more your own on your next album. Which that might be a nonsense, not actual issue that's just for me, but
no, I know what you mean. That like there's like homages to other music, and then there's kind of like so closely hewing to what they do that you're not bringing a newness to it. Which I'm not saying that she did, but
it's important to be like Quentin Tarantino, which is to steal from things that other people haven't seen. Therefore, you seem very original.
Totally, yeah.
Yes.
Don't steal from the popular ones. Steal from the unknown ones.
And I mean, like the
Steal
Elvis
what you
Costello
know.
song that she like that she kind of copped. That was not a bad choice. Like that's not like the most famous song ever.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Sour, but it was just that those little things that were like, I think I can see exactly a pathway for it to becoming like a perfect album, and that's where I'm just like, oh, it's so close.
That's so much more frustrating than something being bad.
Yeah.
I
Like,
know.
when you can see the Matrix green lines behind the album, and you're like, no, just put this here and
Do these simple little changes and. But her next album, I think we can all agree, Olivia Rodrigo's next album is gonna.
For
in
sure.
2 years from
Blow
now's
us all
bracket is
away.
going to be Arlo Parks' second album versus Olivia Rodrigo's second album, and it's going to be an
Yes.
amazing battle.
It's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be brilliant, but I'm gonna cry.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think it is now time for us to have to make a choice between these two. I'm going to go to Caitlin first. Which way are you going?
Taylor, you know I have to get my one win on here. My Olivia
Have you lost
Rodrigo.
every battle so far?
I have. I had All Star. Anyways, yeah, Olivia Rodrigo, please.
Yeah. Okay. That's one vote for Olivia Rodrigo. Cassie, where are you going?
Sour, like when it dropped, it's a good album. I was very surprised by her songwriting and how she was able, like she brought everybody to being 17 again, which is talent. But as we said, like I feel like this is as far as she goes. This far in the bracket feels right for her. So I am going to go Japanese Breakfast.
Also, much like Low and bringing you anxiety, I don't want to be fucking 17 again. Like, that sounds terrible.
Where's my fucking teenage dream?
Ryan, which way are you landing on this one?
Taylor, I got to say, I honestly came in here thinking that Sour was going to be the pick, but I'm sort of thinking that we do this stuff with pop that we do with like horror movies of like, well, they're never elevated enough, so let's elevate them. But then you start saying that average stuff is great, whereas Japanese Breakfast does all of the pop things you need and is still so great. I'm going with Japanese Breakfast.
Okay. We're shaping up for a potential upset here. Books, where are you landing?
I really did enjoy both albums on this bracket. I'm gonna go with the one that I think I listened to more, and I am gonna try to help Caitlin get her win. So I'm gonna go with Sour.
Oh shit!
Just one. Just give me one, please. That's all.
Greg,
I think
how are you landing?
I think I part of me wants to say Japanese Breakfast because I think that that's like maybe a better band and maybe a better album. But if you said like, hey, name an album from this year, I think I would say just Sour right off the top of my head. It's the album I listened to probably more than any other on this list, and it defined so much of the year for me. So it is Sour for me.
Oh my god! Wait, Caitlin, look right into Taylor's eyes and do that like quivering bottom lip thing.
Yeah.
What?
Caitlin, I'm so very pleased to be able to give you this news. Olivia Rodrigo is going to move on
To the albums we're not talking about list.
Because fuck that shit, I hated it.
She is moving on to the next round, and with that, we have our round one. The winners from this round are Lil Sims, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, Lowe's, Hey What, Tyler the Creator's Call Me If You Get Lost, and Olivia Rodrigo Sour. We're going to take a quick break, and we will move on to round two, where those guys will all face off against each other. All right, your first matchup of round two is going to be Little Sims, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, up against Lowe's, Hey What. Ryan, where are we going?
I have to go back to this thing of like, I really think the through line is what is it about yourself? And Low is a band. And that's something else that's super interesting. I know, Greg, you said that Japanese breakfast is 2 people, but I think it's mostly just one, right? Like, for argument's sake, it's one.
There's 2 that are featured in the videos a lot, but everybody always talks about the band as just the one lady.
It's just Michelle.
This is why you're one, is because you get to write these songs that are so much about you. Or you have to be in like Smashing Pumpkins, where everybody's like, oh, another song about Billy. Fucking great. But the best thing to do is just to be a solo artist and make it seem like you're solo or make it seem like you're a band, but like really get us in to let us know who you are. And Low did a thing. Low did a more storytelling thing, and Little Sims didn't. And so it's got to be her.
All right, so 1 vote for Little Sims. Cassie, where are you landing on this one?
This one's very hard. We've talked about how good Little Sims was. Low is very polarizing, and it either you love it or you're not in for it, which makes it feel like the argument is almost like, do you move it on if it polarizes half the people? But I love it, so fuck it. I'm gonna go with Low.
Hell yeah! I fucking love to hear that. We're getting into the spicy hours now. Caitlin, where's this vote going?
I think you can guess. I don't enjoy having my ears bleed, so I am gonna go with Little Sims.
What a Karen!
That makes sense to me. Greg, what's your go?
I love Low, and anyone who says anything bad about them is silly in my mind. But Little Sims, sometimes I might be introvert, just delivered on so many levels, and I think that the extra levels, which is it's a lot more fun to listen to, and earnest, and a little bit more joyful, and a little bit more emotional. So I'm going to go with sometimes I might be introvert.
Yeah, absolutely. Can only respect that choice. Books, what's your vote?
Yeah. I have to go with the one that ticks all the boxes for me and doesn't just tick the like newness, doing something interesting. So that's Little Sims for me.
Fantastic. Well, that is 4 votes for Little Sims to 1 vote for Hey What. So even if I used my special host privileges to vote
Taylor,
twice,
would you vote for Low?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, Low is my number 1 album. If you haven't listened to it, please go listen to it. I think it's incredible, and it's something very near and dear to my heart. But it will not be moving on, because instead, Little Sims, the number 1 seed, so it makes sense, is going to move on to the finals. Your next matchup is the number 2 seed, Tyler, the Creator's Call Me If You Get Lost, versus the number 3 seed, Olivia Rodrigo's Sour.
It's about to get brutal in here.
Oh my God, I forgot to tell you guys the news. Whatever wins tonight, I'm going to buy on vinyl.
Whoa.
Yeah.
A licorice pizza, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm going to
I know what that
licorice
means.
Pizza.
Yeah. To me, this is a slammy D, man.
Yeah, I think so too, but I'm just going to go real quick to Caitlin first. What are you thinking on this one?
I think I always pick a winner, and I think you're coming to me first because you know that I'm setting the tone. So yeah, I'm going to go with Olivia Rodrigo Sour.
Yeah, I figured we'd introduce a little bit of tension here right at the
Drama.
top.
Let's get some drama.
Yeah.
DJ drama over here.
Cassie, who are you picking?
It's my album of the year, Tyler, the Creator.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ryan.
I don't know what I'm going to do in the next round.
The next one.
But my album of the year is Tyler, the Creator.
All right, it's shaping up one way, but it could go any way. It's anyone's game still. Books.
But McKenna, fight for Caitlin here.
Do it.
You know, the friendship contract that I signed that could legally get me killed.
Oh, did it just expire?
Does tell me I need to vote for Sour, but I do think it lacks the full depth that Tyler, the Creator, is doing in this full album. But I think she's going to get there. I think she's going to be at Tyler, the Creator level in a few albums. Yeah. But for this year, it's Tyler, the Creator.
McKenna said sour butt.
Sour butt. Greg, which way are you voting on this one?
It's so funny watching this guy go from, wouldn't it be cool if he could just be normal for like a couple songs so that everybody could see how good he is, all the way to like, this is
appreciating that he doesn't.
Yeah, probably. But this is an absolute, like, Olivia Rodrigo, great album. But this helps really, for me, exemplify how much better his album was than most of what came out in 2021. Tyler, the Creator, Call Me If You Get Lost.
Yeah,
but let's give it up to Caitlin's Olivia Rodrigo for making it to the final 4. That's impressive.
That's huge.
Well done for the 3 seed. No one could have seen it.
She's 17, right?
She's a baby. She's probably
she's just a little kid. Like, she's younger than the people I teach.
She was born with stickers on her tongue.
She's doing great.
To overcome that, what a brave soul. All right, that brings us to our final, which is the number 1 seed, Lil Sims, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, versus the number 2 seed.
Oh, why do we do brackets? Why do we do brackets?
Listen, sometimes we have upsets, sometimes it shakes out the way that, we sort of anticipate it.
It doesn't always go 1 versus 2 on these things, but with this one, didn't you feel like I totally thought this was going to be it?
These were the 2 albums where I was like, okay, this is something else.
Yeah.
My top 3 were Low, Lil Sims, and Tyler the Creator. So
you know what both of these albums have in common for me is that I don't exclusively love everything they do. In both of them, there's parts that annoy the hell out of me, but I think that makes me like the albums more.
Yes, I know. Greg, how long have you been friends with me? That's how relationships work.
Yeah, if someone is just giving you exactly what you want all the time, you get bored. But there are parts of these albums where I'm just like, why did you put that in there? Normally, I'm a grumpy old man. It's the talky parts.
Yeah.
But I think that there's something about how much I don't like those parts that, I don't know, it sets the hook for me. Both of these albums, I found I just kept going back and listening to these 2 anytime I wanted to listen to an album for this show. These were the 2 that I was most drawn to listen to.
And I want to go back to McKenna's whole read a book and drink coffee thing of they won't let you.
No.
They will not let you.
They demand your full attention.
Yeah, and you have to sit on the couch and stare at the wall and experience the albums because we refuse to be background music.
I also think it's very interesting. We've had several albums from both these artists now, but these albums proved we still have so much to learn about these 2 individuals. We still have a lot to learn about them.
And I would like to.
Yeah,
and they're both little
movies.
movies. They are both totally little films. They're so interesting.
I honestly have no idea how I'm going to vote right now. These are my 2.
Ryan, too bad.
Kind of,
no, vote
Taylor,
right
Taylor,
now.
don't do it.
We're filibustering.
Actually, I'm still looking at the menu. Could you go to somebody else?
I'll go.
Yeah,
Greg, come to me, Taylor.
Greg,
come to me.
You seem extremely confident, and I can't wait to see where you plant your flag.
I'm ready. These are the 2 best albums of the year, but Tyler the Creator's Call Me If You Get Lost is the album of the year.
Hell yeah. I cannot respect enough someone who knows where they're going to vote so strongly that they volunteer for it.
Seems like a direct insult to me. But
No, absolutely not. Hey, Ryan, which way are you going to vote?
I said the entire show that Tyler was the best album of the year.
That's true.
I'm picking Taylor the Creator.
Yeah, I can't believe that you said that so often and said explicitly, this is my number 1 album of the year, and then didn't
really
know
good,
what you were going to vote for.
I got nervous. I freaked out.
The pressure got to him.
Yeah. Cassie, which way are you voting?
There's a vinyl on the line, and there can only be 1 vinyl. That's Call Me If You Get Lost.
Yeah, dude.
That's where I'm going.
Caitlin, how are you voting?
I'm not agreeing with everyone. I'm going with Lil Sims. I love the cinematic atmosphere, and it pulled me into a whole cool place. So I'm going Lil Sims.
All right. Books, which way are you voting?
I know my vote doesn't really matter, but I am going to go with the one that felt just a little more cohesive to me, and that was Little Sims. So
It does matter. Taylor can
Yeah,
explain this right now.
But I know it's not going to, because I also know who Taylor's number 1 pick is.
Because I've heard Taylor this entire day.
But I do have to give credit to Little Sims, and that's who I would be putting forward if my vote mattered.
It's so narrow, and if there's a universe where I do swoop this and make Little Sims the winner, but I'm not going to. I think Tyler the Creator's album was so good, and I loved it so much. And I love both of these albums. They're a very narrow margin to me, but ladies and gentlemen,
you made it, Tyler. You did it, man. He's going to be so pumped when he finds out. This is really just the cherry on top of everything for him.
The reason he made Igor was Flower Boy. The reason he made this album was Igor. The reason that he made this actual album was to win the fucking bracket.
Yeah. Tyler, come on down, pick up your trophy at any point. We would love to hang out with you. But your 2021 album of the year is officially Tyler the Creator's Call Me If You Get Lost. Let's give it up. I think maybe the only upset from this entire run in this bracket. So congrats on making it happen.
I almost bought it on vinyl a couple days ago, and then I read it closer, and what I was about to buy was the ID card that is the cover of the album. So they would have sent me a little laminated picture.
That's also fun to have.
I could put in my wallet.
That's an NFT, Ryan. That's what NFTs are.
Yeah.
Oh, now I understand. What
Yeah,
NFTs
that's not
are.
fungible.
Yeah. Can't funge that bad boy.
No way, dude. It won't happen.
That's not fucking tungible. That's what it sounds for.
Speaking of not being fungible, there's only one of this podcast. We've just completed it. But if you want something...
And we will sell it to the highest bidder, for sure.
Will.
If you want something pretty close to it, maybe adjacent on the blockchain of this podcast feed, tune in next week where we are doing Century of the Year. That's where we go through all the big moments, the top 100 big moments of 2021, and we just sort of relive them and do nothing else. There's nothing else that is like physically injurious to our person.
No.
So tune in for that. It'll be a very fun time. It'll be a lot of fun every year. I really enjoy doing it, and then hearing an off fact that I go, oh, fuck, yeah, that did happen. What a weird thing that happened, and I totally forgot about that.
It got stuck all the way in there.
It got stuck all the way in there for like a full week.
I'm so fucking sick of Greg texting me that.
Who knows? And I'm talking about an actual event, and it's not actually sexual. Tune in next week, Century of the Year, for something getting stuck in something else.
What a tease.
Yes, indeed. So tune in for that next week. That is all for this show. For Mike, I'm Taylor.
Yeah,
no one else.
Call out Mike. Yeah, good job with Mike.
Yeah.
Who do I know?
Who I know?
Mike.
It's Mike. I'm filling in for Mike this week, and he is going to be back giving you all the weather at a cool 69 degrees. Tune in for that on Century of the Year. Here's the music. Take it out, baby. Let it ride. The show is time to be over, and now it's gonna end. Play that funky bean footage. Roll it up, throw it out the door. Here comes the train that gives the ending. Choo choo. All right, and cut. Great job, everybody. That was good. Is it over? Choo choo. Choo choo. Choo choo. Choo choo. Choo choo!